Welcome to the Peace and Possibilities Podcast, the best place to learn all about how successful, happy people found work doing what they love. Thanks for listening. Okay, so today, everyone, thanks for joining. I am talking to Stefano Durdic, and I've known Stefano for, this is crazy, over 35 years, I think, maybe. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think about that? That's a long time.
Yeah, it seems like only yesterday.
Yes, it does. So the reason I wanted to talk to Stefano today was because my podcast focuses on helping other people figure out what it is they love doing and a way to make money doing it. And I want to talk to people who have done just that. So that's why Stefano is here today. So thanks for joining me, Stefano. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Good. So the first question I want to ask is, so we are both in our in midlife, and along the way, early on in your career and in college, did you know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or did you say, I'm going to go to school and work hard and then I'll figure out what I want to do with my life later? What did you know early on?
So no, I come from hardworking immigrant parents, and my dad worked in the hotel business for 43 years before he passed away, all at the same place. So one thing my parents wanted for their children was for us to not kind of have that crazy work lifestyle, and to us to go to college and get a regular 9-to-5. So with my dad being at one place for all these years and me kind of destined to go to college, I thought I was going to graduate, get a 9-to-5 corporate job, and then get the gold cufflinks, when I retired at age 65. So I don't think being an entrepreneur was even, I even thought about it at a young age.
Oh my gosh, I never knew that. That's interesting. I always assumed you knew you were going to go for that later. That's so interesting. Okay, cool. So tell me about how you got from, I'm going to go to school and get a 9-to-5 job to, I think I have a really cool idea and I'm going to try this instead.
Wow. It's, I don't think it was, I sought it. I think it just kind of, happened, but I was working for a smaller company that got purchased by a Nations Bank, and then Nations Bank eventually merged with Bank of America. And with that transaction, that's when I had the opportunity to go work overseas. So as you know, my girlfriend at the time, my wife right now, Tracy, and I moved to Germany, and in a relatively short time, I kind of rose, through the ranks at Bank of America in Frankfurt, Germany. So, I was the head of European derivative trading, and I was in the board of directors for Bank of America, and I was like the youngest board member by probably decades. And when you work for a bigger organization and you look around and you see the people kind of above you, it wasn't that impressive, and I think something clicked. I could do what they're doing. I don't need to be working for someone else. The people above me, I'm not that impressed, shall we say. So being in Germany, a lot of smaller companies were being formed, a lot of Americans coming out to Germany to compete against, big Bank of America. In these smaller, younger companies, 2 or 3 man shop, were kind of starting to take away some of our market share. And that was, I think, another data point, like, this big corporation isn't, it isn't all that. And the people up above really aren't the most impressive. And meanwhile, these little 2 and 3 man shops can come along and compete against us. So I made the decision to leave Germany, and Tracy and I came back and started my own company. And it was, I'm not going to lie to you, I was nervous. It was I was leaving the guaranteed paycheck of Bank of America to go work for myself, where there's no guarantee that there's going to be a paycheck. And I think we were lucky. We had some pretty instant success in my first entrepreneurial adventure. And I think the biggest, eye opener for me was about 9 months after we left Germany, Bank of America shut down the entire office. So here I am, 9 months prior, being nervous that I'm leaving this guaranteed paycheck. And, the guaranteed paycheck, no such thing. It went away for everyone that stuck around at the bank. And meanwhile, my little startup venture started to take off. So, I would say I was a accidental entrepreneur.
I did not know that. That's so interesting. So you came back and obviously taking the risk to start your own company, and then look back and say, well, I'm leaving this kind of guarantee. Obviously that's a risk right there, but it's interesting that you thought to do that anyways, or were scared and went ahead. This is what I'm hearing. And then behind the scenes, it's like, all right, I guess I'll see. And you said you got lucky. I don't think it's ever luck. I think it's hard work and preparation and doing the research. I'm guessing you did some of that when you were successful in the beginning. You didn't just start your company, open the doors, and then 9 months later you were successful. What else was in there? What was in that mix of getting to that place where you started to realize this was going to be a success?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because there's a saying I saw that it's hard to recognize luck. It looks so much like something you've earned, So, I don't think it's ever one thing. I think without a doubt, work ethic. I think, whether it was I indirectly or directly picked it up from my parents, but they worked really, really hard so their kids can have a good life, and it's hard not to, notice it or have kind of be in your DNA. So definitely a work ethic. I think I think there are tons of people smarter than me. I think I have a fair amount of common sense, which I think sometimes isn't too common. I think I have just a pragmatic kind of approach to problems, and pretty competitive, and ultimately probably people would say pretty stubborn, and I think it's you combine all those things, and I wouldn't bet against me if I had my mindset to it. If you want me to do something, tell me I can't do it. I'll kind of take it as a challenge to do it. So without a doubt, I think that's, in my opinion, a big contributing factor to it. Being in the right place at the right time. So, all of those traits are helpful. But if in the year 2000, my business was to open up a video rental shop with VCR cassettes, VCR tapes, it wouldn't have been successful no matter how much I tried. So yeah. I'd say a personal determination, fortunate to have a good business idea. That business idea was probably the right place at the right time. Being able to find, attract talent, because you can't do it all yourself. So good business partners, a support system at home, a wife that encourages you and supports you in your decisions. I think it's never one thing. I always think it's a bunch of different factors.
Yeah, for sure. Would you say that the underlying, so your determination, you were saying your stubbornness, you're determined to do it. Would you say that you had this belief, like this really firm knowing, even when you were scared and you took that risk and you left Bank of America, would you say that you had this, like, I can do this? Like you said that you already saw that when you were having these meetings with these other board members and what they were doing and not doing. When you came back and said, I'm going to do this on my own, did you firmly believe that you were going to be successful at some point, or that you could do it?
Yeah. I wouldn't call it an arrogance. I'd call it a confidence. I think the distinction is I'd be lying if I didn't say I wasn't nervous and, afraid at night, going to bed and going, oh my God, what am I doing? And I also think I kind of describe it as a healthy fear. I think the confidence is what drove me that I could do this. And the fear was a healthy fear to kind of keep me on my edge and keep me, even more motivated. And I think if that fear gets too loud, it becomes a crippling fear. And I think if that fear becomes crippling, I think it potentially clouds your judgment and you might not make the right decision because of that fear. So I never want to not have that underlying nervousness and fear, because I think that contributes to the motivation. And I think if you don't have it, the risk is you become a bit more complacent. But yeah, without a doubt, I don't know why. I just felt, confident that we would do well. I almost probably because I felt like I had more control. I wasn't at the mercy of the employer. I got to control our own destiny, and I think I find that comfortable for some reason.
Ah, that's interesting. That's cool. I'm learning so many things about you. All right, so
that's good.
Tell me about. So there's some, we both have kids around the same age in their early 20s, and I am one of my goals with this podcast is to share about these success stories so that people that are in their 20s and 30s and even in their 40s and 50s can say, like, hey, if this person can do it, I can do it too. See those stories and say, like, there are people out there doing what I want or with a good idea, and here's some of the tips that they have shared with me so that I can do the same thing. I want people to have that younger. And I know you said you had this, these parents with this great work ethic, and I didn't have that necessarily, but I had, like, you kind of have to figure it out on your own. That was the message I got growing up. And so I did figure almost everything out on my own, which obviously is great. But it also would have been nice to have some mentors around at that age to say, hey, try this. And I know that you do that for your daughter, and we try to do that for our kids. But I know that there's a lot of kids in high school and in college that don't have that guidance. What would you say to someone like that says, like, I'm not really sure what I want to do, or I think I want to do this, and I'm just going to go work for someone else, even though I have an idea, or I have no idea, but I know I need to get a college degree. What would you say to people like that?
Wow. Well, I say it all the time, like you said, because I have a daughter at that age. But it's I want to touch on something that you said because I think we have a similar dynamic there. I always wanted an older brother. You have plenty of siblings, but I always wanted an older brother to be my guide. Mm-hmm. And my parents, being European immigrants, they didn't really know, they weren't going to give me counseling on applying for college or going to college because they didn't have those experiences. So at a very young age, I felt like I was kind of explaining things to my parents as opposed to the other way around. Mm-hmm. And, I always wanted to not have to be the man. I always wanted to have an older brother I could lean on. But looking back, I just think it made me that much stronger, and I think the same thing happened with you. You kind of realize that if you want to get it done, you got to do it yourself. Mm-hmm. So for me, I kind of like that was my upbringing. I feel it made me stronger. But to your question about, what do I tell the young version of me or any 20-something-year-old today, they might look at me and say, oh, wow, he knew what he was doing. He was successful, et cetera. At that age, I had no idea. I knew I was going to do, I felt confident that I was going to do something, good, but I had no idea what that was going to be, mm-hmm. and it wasn't until I had so many different jobs and took different courses and everything else that I kind of got exposed to things that, some things I thought I was going to like, I really did like. Some things I thought I was going to like, I didn't like at all. Things I thought I would hate, I had liked more than I thought. So I really, probably the first thing is, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So don't worry if you don't know right now. Be patient, be open-minded. If you see a job opening that you don't think you'd like it, have the interview anyway. Maybe during the interview process, you might like the person, or you might realize it sounds neater than you thought. So kind of being patient and open-minded and not being afraid to admit you don't know. I think a lot of young people going into job interviews, they want to play it cool and pretend they have all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, I don't know. As I hired people over the years, I kind of appreciate that honesty than someone faking it, because I could tell they're faking it. I could tell they're just trying to give me the answer I want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd much rather hear the honest answer. I don't know, but I think this might be exciting. So, you don't have to play it cool. You can admit you don't know, and you can admit you're still trying to figure it out. So I think that's kind of like the mental adjustment that I would encourage, younger people to focus on. And then, don't take yourself too serious. It'll work out as long as you're determined. I think the universe has a way of working itself out, but you just got to stay in the game, be open-minded, and don't stress that you have to have something by next Wednesday. It'll come to you.
Yeah, I think that's such great advice, especially it's so competitive now for colleges and people with jobs, and everyone's smart. Everyone goes to school. Everyone's got a good degree, and now they go out into the workforce and they think, okay, I did everything I was supposed to do. Now, where's the money? And now I'm good. I know everything. It's like, no, people aren't expecting you to know everything. Like you said, A, and B, they can tell when you're faking it. And you're 22, you're 25. You're not supposed to have all the answers. You're just supposed to, like you said, be open-minded, be patient. And then I tell, our kids, and I'm sure you've done the same thing, go towards something that's exciting to you. And sometimes, like you said, if you don't necessarily have an idea, check it out anyways. You just never know what something's going to turn out to be. But go towards the things that you're curious about and that, are lighting you up just a little bit and you're not sure why, because then you can investigate and check it out. And you might be wrong, but at least you went towards something, and then, all right, I can knock that off my list and pursue something different. But at least it's never a straight line, right? It's always that winding road. But I love your advice about just being open-minded and being patient, because I know that they work really hard and they want to get a good job because they did everything they were supposed to do. But this is just the beginning of the marathon, right? Thank you.
Couldn't agree with you more. And even if you find yourself in the job that you don't like and you're not going to stay there the rest of your career, you may superficially say, oh, that was a waste of time, but you should be able to extract at least one lesson or one thing from every experience. So just use it to kind of further shape, what you want to be.
I love that. And then, like you said, if you're not exactly where you want to be, there's always something else you can do. I've done this at some of my jobs. Not exactly what I want, but I can do one extra thing or make one extra idea come to life or suggestion. And you're adding value to the position that you're in at the time, and the people around you will notice that. And then you can take that away. All right, I didn't love what I was doing, but I did this instead, and I made it even better. And that rolls into the next opportunity that you have. So I think that's great advice. Okay, I have one final question for you.
Okay.
It's a two-parter, so you can decide which you want to talk about. So what do you regret not doing sooner in your life, looking back the last 25 years you've been working? What do you regret not doing sooner, or what do you wish you had learned earlier to help you in your career?
I kind of feel like Sinatra. Regrets, I've had a few, but too few to mention. I generally am not one to look back, over there, and I think I can honestly say I don't really have any strong regrets. I feel kind of blessed. I feel fortunate and lucky that I've had, have a great life. If I'm going to be nitpicky, I think I think I like the journey. I like the work, and if I set my, I've lost track of how many different companies I've started. But I think I like that. I like the building process, and ultimately I can describe it as you're starting a project heading towards a destination, and I think I get so focused and zeroed in on the project and the destination. I'll think of it as like a journey, climbing up a mountain, and on the way up the mountain, I'm not stopping to enjoy the scenery as much as I should be. you know, because I'm just got to climb this mountain, got to climb this mountain. And then when I get to the top of the mountain, instead of cracking open that bottle of wine and enjoying it as much as I should, the fruits of my labor, I'm like, oh, look, there's another mountain over there. Let me see if I can start climbing that one. So I think I'm working on that, actually. That's kind of what I'm working on right now, to be honest with you. But, and you've noticed, because we've gone out to more dinners and whatnot, I'm trying to spend more time with family and friends. I'm trying to stop and smell the roses. And, you know, I think I've done an okay job of that, but I think I could have done a better job of that. You know, there's more to life than just the work, you know, and even though I like it so much, I like other things as well. So I think stopping to smell the roses is probably, you know, it's probably the same answer to both your questions. It's probably, you know, what I might regret not doing sooner, and maybe something I wish I would have thought about or learned earlier.
I like that. It's interesting that they could be the same thing. And yes, I agree. You know, for people that are driven like yourself and determined, people that have an idea and they want to see it come to life, you only want to concentrate on those things. I'm in that process right now. I've always been a hard worker, and I'm not afraid of working hard. I want to get to where I'm so sure about where I want to get to. I've never felt that way about anything in my life. Now that I'm so sure about where I want to go, I don't want to spend another minute doing anything else. And that's obviously not healthy, because there's no balance. And you can't be super productive and have great ideas and be creative and be focused and mindful and all those things if you are just looking at, like you said, the mountain and not anything else around you. So I've already learned that. So I know that the balance is important. But once you're so determined and you're so excited to do what you're doing, it's hard to stop and say, okay, I have all these other things around me. But all those other things around you are what end up making you successful in that journey. So it's kind of ironic, but it's also like, it's hard. I never would have even thought about any of this when I was in my 20s. So I think it's important for people to see those lessons clear for the people that have already lived them, instead of just, you know, it's just they're talking and it doesn't mean anything to them. I think younger people can relate to examples like that way more than we give them credit for. So thank you for sharing all your insights and wisdom. And I can't wait for everyone else to hear your story. It's pretty cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'm hoping most 20-year-olds tune in so they could learn from our experiences.
I agree. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening. If you love this content, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or whichever platform you found us on. You can get all my social media links in the description below. Help us keep the momentum going so that every person can live their lives happily, doing work they love.